of the sickest I felt in my whole life. You might want to hold your breath for this one. My boyfriend and I had been dating for like 8 months or so. I had my own place, so I let him move in with me. One day, my best friend decides that she wants to become a hairdresser, and so she started taking clients and doing people's hair. I became one of her clients because she did hair really good, and she didn't charge me as much because I was her bestie. Whenever I needed her to do my hair, she would come over to my place. Well, over time, my best friend and my boyfriend began to become closer. I didn't think anything of it because I trusted my best friend and my boyfriend. Sometimes my best friend and my boyfriend would be alone together because if she was doing my hair that day and I wasn't home, I would make my boyfriend open the door for her. She could just go ahead and walk on in, get her stuff set up, and then once I was there, she could do my hair. Like I said, I trusted them enough, so I wasn't worried about it. Bitch, I should have been worried about it. One night, my boyfriend tells me that he's gonna be working a little late that night. So, I'm like, okay, that's fine. So that night, I was just sitting on my bed scrolling through my socials. Then I opened Snapchat. I'm watching my best friend's story, and she had made a brand new private story. She added me to that story, and there was a picture of my best friend and my boyfriend in bed together. This is gonna be part 2 of the sickest I felt in my whole life. The pain in my chest when I saw the picture of my best friend and my boyfriend in bed together. I started heaving. I was wheezing, like, so I was thinking to myself whether I should slide up and say anything, or if I should pull up to her house and whoop her ass. It had to have been at her house because that man had no place to go. That's why he was living with me. This man is over here homie hopping. Meanwhile, he don't even got a home. Although I was very upset, I was surprisingly calm. I decided that I'm not gonna pull up and beat both of their asses. I decided that I was just gonna take his stuff and throw it out the door. And as I'm walking to his room, I hear what sounds like a window is opening. And it sounds like it's coming from my boyfriend's room. So I keep walking to his room to check out whatever this sound is. I walk in there, and there my best friend and my boyfriend are sleeping on the bed that I bought him in my house. Bitch, like for part 3. This is gonna be part 3 of the sickest I felt in my entire life. Like I said, I walked in the room and saw my best friend and my boyfriend sleeping. I'm like, okay, we taking naps, bitch, in my fucking house. Let's take a fucking nap, then I'm gonna put both of y'all to sleep. So my boyfriend actually looked like he was sleeping, but I could tell that my best friend was faking it. She had just posted that snap only 10 minutes ago. It was clearly intended for me to see. So I walk up to the bed. I go over to where my boyfriend is sleeping, and when I tell you, I smacked the shit out down there, whacked that yuck. Like I was trained for it. Meanwhile, my best friend's over there like, oh my god. I'm like, bitch, I'm about to get to you. But right now, we focus in on him. But I'm gonna get to you, I promise. So I lift the covers off of them, and I see that they're both naked. So that's really when I started pouncing on him, scratching him, biting him, all that good stuff. Meanwhile, my best friend's over there trying to put her clothes on so she could go. Girl, you ain't going nowhere. Because after I was done pouncing on him, I charged towards her. Like for part 4. This is gonna be part 4 of the sickest that I felt in my whole life. So I had just gotten done beating up my boyfriend after catching him with my best friend. As I was beating up my boyfriend, my best friend was getting herself together so she could go. Like, where are you going home, girl? Our business isn't finished here, bestie. So I charge towards her and she's ready because she knows I don't play that. And she puts up her fists. I run up to her, she tries to swing, dodged it. I grab her hair and I drag her to the door. Maybe not the bedroom door. The front door. Dragged her all the way out and kicked her out the door. I locked the door, then I went back to my boyfriend's room, cussed him out a little more, and started packing his stuff up for him. I tell him that he has 1 day to get all of his stuff and leave, or else I'm burning it. I cut my friend off completely because she did some weird ass shit. I don't know why she would do anything like that, and I wasn't about to ask questions because I didn't give a fuck. My boyfriend was over there trying to beg me to stay, trying to say he was sorry, and I just was not having it. So I cut them both off. Girl, the hairstyles and diddly wasn't that good. It was not that good to keep them around. Fuck 'em.
Story time about how I found my husband using Tinder and all the freaking dating apps. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. Once again, I'm at the airport, sorry. My husband and I were both total sluts when we met. He was seeing like 10 girls when I first met him, and I was dating 3 guys at the time. Well, let me tell you, neither of us trusted each other, like not one bit. Eventually, he asked me to be his girlfriend, and I really wasn't sure if I wanted to say yes, but I did. He is so good looking. Like everywhere we go, we get told we're such a good looking couple. So we know we're both pretty good looking. To be fair, we were both addicted to Instagram. I would get tons of DMs from guys, and sometimes I would answer. And I know that he was getting DMs from girls, although he never told me. We dated for a year, and then he asked me to marry him. Of course, I said yes. I thought this was his way of telling me that he was going to commit to me 100%. After 6 months of being married, I started getting really suspicious. He would never leave his phone unattended. And if we were having dinner, he would always put his phone face down. I know you all know that's a red flag. Basically, he was hiding his phone from me like all the time. One night, we got super drunk and I made sure to wait until he fell asleep. I got on his phone and found Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how I found out my husband was using Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge all at the same time. But yeah, and cheating on me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. So I got him drunk enough that he fell asleep. I got onto his phone and I found all the dating apps. I quickly screenshot every conversation he'd had on each of the apps. I was literally on his phone for 4 hours. Like, I didn't sleep at all that night. And the whole time I was reading his messages, I was crying. Like, I literally thought he was dedicated to me. I sent myself all of the screenshots and then deleted them from his phone. I also went through his Instagram and found a bunch of DMs from different girls. And a lot of them were big influencers. I can spill so much tea about that, by the way. I found a bunch of naked pictures from girls as well, and he even had a freaking Snapchat. At that point, I couldn't look anymore. So here's what I did. I invited both of our families to our house for dinner. Ordered from a super fancy restaurant and made sure everyone was coming. When we sat down to dinner, I told him I was going to go get my laptop. He asked me why, and I told him to give me a second. He literally thought I was going to give him a big surprise. That's when I exposed him in front of both of our families. Part 3's up. Part 3 of how I found out my husband was using dating apps, cheating on me, and I exposed him in front of both of our families. So as everyone is sitting down and having dinner, I start a slideshow of all the DMs, pictures that had been sent between him and all these girls. Yes, I was petty enough to make a slideshow. My husband looks at me and tells me to take it down. Of course I didn't. That's when his mom got up from her chair and slapped him straight across the face. Of course my husband started crying instantly. His dad even grabbed him by the shoulders and shook him. My family was in shock. They were so disappointed in him. Mind you, him and my mom had a great relationship. He hung out with my family all the time. That's when I asked him for a divorce and I told him I wanted everything. By the way, my husband and I own a business and he's got his own money. So I ended up taking more than half of the business, 3 out of the 4 cars that he owns, and lots of money. But here's the thing, I still love him. Even though I have my own apartment and we live separately, he comes over all the time for, you know what? Like, we still love each other and still like each other, but I can't get past the fact that he actually cheated on me. He's asking for me to go back with him, but honestly, I don't know if I should. Once a cheater, always a cheater, right? But I'm gonna expose myself. I cheated on him too, what do I do?
My ex and I met when we were both 10. She was and still is my twin sister's best friend, so we've always been kind of a trio growing up. We started dating at 14 and got married at 23. Things got ugly though, because 5 years after getting married, she told me that she had a month-long affair with her coworker. Apparently, the guilt was too much for her, so she confessed. We tried to work through it, but after a few months of trying, I knew that despite the fact that I loved her, I couldn't trust her anymore. She told me that she still loved me and that she'd wait for me and prove that I was the only one. I wanted to believe her, but you know, some things just can't be fixed. We never had kids. 3 years after the divorce, I met my now wife and we got married 2 years after dating. She's everything I could ever dream of in a wife and more. My ex, as my sister told me since they're still besties, never really recovered. She quit her job and is now working at a church. Throughout my relationship with my wife, she kept trying to get back together, and on the day of my wedding, she told me that she still loved me and would love no one else. She said this was the last time that she would bother me, but that she'll wait for however long it took. Apparently, she's honest in that regard because my sister said that she's never been with anyone else. So here's what happened recently. My wife and I are married for 7 years now, have 2 kids. My sister came over with her own kids so the cousins could play. When my wife went to pick out lunch, my sister sat me down and told me the situation about my ex. Apparently, she only has less than 6 months to live. She refused treatment and wants to live the last few months to the fullest. I guess that's why her and my sister really went out of their way to travel despite the pandemic. One thing on her bucket list, though, was that she wanted to feel like my wife again. No sex, no kissing, she just wanted me to be around the house again and maybe hold her from time to time. She still lives in the house that we lived in. I told her that I wouldn't do that because it was pretty much emotional cheating. My sister kept arguing and begging me to at least see her and hear her out. We kept arguing until my wife came back. My sister told her the whole story, and while she looked upset, she said that she understood where my ex was coming from. When my sister left, my wife and I talked about it. My wife knows everything that happened in the past with my ex. She says while she isn't thrilled about the idea, she won't get upset if I decide to go see her on a regular basis. My wife is literally the best thing that ever happened to me, and I love her more than anyone. She makes me happier than I've ever been in my life, even in the good times with my ex. She knows I won't cheat. I also have 0 romantic feelings for my ex, so there's nothing lingering there. I don't hate her or anything, it's just the love that I had for her has long since died. After thinking about it for a while, I'm honestly 50-50 on it. I know I don't owe her anything, but I feel like I might regret not seeing her at least one more time since the last time I saw her was on my wedding day, and that wasn't a good encounter for either of us. I honestly feel like, despite what she did, she still deserves to go with some peace. On the other hand, I'm not entirely sure if this might potentially affect our marriage. My wife says she's okay with it, and I believe her, but I just can't be sure that she'll feel the same way after it happens. I don't want anything to jeopardize what I have right now, no matter what. I'm not too thrilled about going myself, to be honest. What should I do? Part 2. My ex wants me to be with her in her last days. I talked to my wife and had a long discussion about the whole situation. I assured her that no matter what, she is and always will be my first priority. I also reassured her that while I wanted to say my goodbye, I would never act like her partner. It would be more like me seeing a childhood friend or something like that. I also said I would never spend the night, nor would I be alone with her. She was more comfortable after our talk and was pretty okay with the idea of me seeing my ex again. Originally, she really felt like she was being forced into being okay with it when my sister asked, but this time, she was really okay. I talked to my sister, and after a long heated discussion, she agreed to the boundaries my wife wife and I set. A week later, my sister and I came over to our old marital home. It was surreal because while the emotions from years before came back to me, I didn't feel any sadness, hatred, or anything negative. I saw my ex, who was waiting for us in the living room, and she cried when I walked in. You could tell almost immediately that something was wrong with her. I indulged her with a hug and we talked for a few hours while my sister made lunch. I showed her pictures of my kids and told her stories about what they're like. Honestly, I didn't know how I would react after I saw her again, but it just feels like seeing an old friend you haven't seen in a long time. There was no hate or anything like that. I walked around the house and it was pretty much the way it was when I left over a decade ago. I'm not really sure how I feel about our wedding photos still framed in pictures of us all over the house, but it really wasn't my place to say anything. The three of us had lunch and played board games all afternoon. It honestly felt like we were back to when we were kids and the three of us would hang out together. It was nice. I left around 6. She was sad, but she understood. When I hugged her goodbye, she whispered I love you to me, but then said how she's happy I was able to find the happiness she couldn't give me. That part got to me, and to be honest, I was fighting back tears. I told her that I'd see her again soon, and she asked if I could bring my kids next time. I told her I would and left to pick up dinner for my family. I told my wife everything that happened, and she was quite happy about the outcome. I guess it helped that I brought home her favorite food, but she also agreed to let me bring the kids next time. Overall, it was a great experience seeing her again. I feel like I needed that, and I would have regretted not doing so. She made a mistake and paid the price, but it doesn't mean that she's an evil person.